First off, Sunny Uppal. Sunny is a senior advisor in the International Climate Change Division of Environment Canada. He's an experienced negotiator and currently is the lead for the agriculture part of the Climate and Clean Air Coalition, CCAC, on short-lived climate pollutants. I think as we've heard this morning, those are very, very important for agriculture. So Sunny, please.
Thank you very much, and I'll try to stick to the 10 minutes, getting more and more enforced. So thank you very much, and thanks to Lenny and to the bank as well for organizing this event. It's been most interesting for the observation. I think as an observer, it's been fantastic. So for the CCAC, a quick overview. It's the Climate and Clean Air Coalition to Reduce Short-Lived Climate Pollutants. And under the CCAC, we have launched an initiative on agriculture. And the lead partners of this initiative are Bangladesh, Canada, the European Commission, Ghana, Japan, the United States, and the World Bank. Am I doing something wrong here? There we go. Thank you. So what is the CCAC? So basically in February 2012, a few countries and UNEP, along with the European Commission, came together to address or look at how we could address short-lived climate pollutants. And these are black carbon, methane, tropospheric ozone, and some HFCs. Now, why are they called short-lived? Because they live in the atmosphere for a shorter time than comparatively CO2. But nonetheless, they have been linked to climate impacts along with being known as air pollutants. So when we talk about the CCAC, it's looking to address climate change, but also public health through addressing air pollution and food security. So the CCAC was launched as a catalyzing agent of sorts, catalytic, I should say, near-term significant action to reduce emissions with a view of addressing the 2-degree goal, in addition to, as I mentioned, public health and food security. So it has grown immensely since that time. It now has over 80 state, international governmental, and non-governmental organization partners. It is hosted by UNEP. And under the CCAC, there have been 10 sectoral initiatives that have been launched to address SLCPs in the key sectors where there are significant emissions. So why was agriculture a popular topic under the CCAC? Well, I think we've heard throughout the day as to why agriculture as a sector is a significant source of emissions. So the partners of the coalition very early on knew that this was an area where the CCAC wanted to do something. And it took a lot of teleconferences with a lot of partners to come to a design that could really look at addressing agriculture in a way that would align with the objectives of the coalition, but also really address the fact that this sector is so diverse. So again, some of the big reasons that came up in terms of why we wanted to address agriculture under the coalition was that it is responsible for providing food for a growing population. It employs 20% of the global population and 65% of the population in developing countries. I think a lot of the other elements we've heard throughout the day, so I'll speed through that. So as I mentioned, developing the initiative, it is consensus driven. So the CCAC as a whole, it doesn't operate like the UNFCCC or other organizations. It is consensus based, it is voluntary, it is a partnership in the sense that when an initiative is designed and the intent is to have the work started, it is really through a consensus based process. So again, some of the lead partners, as I mentioned before, but one of the exciting things that just happened a few weeks ago is the FAO has now also joined as a partner to the initiative. So the solution that we came up with, as I mentioned, was that we wanted to focus the work in 3 distinct subsectors within agriculture. And these were livestock and manure management, open agricultural burning, and paddy rice production. So the framework itself, the initiative, is really a broad document and pretty much looks at sharing, or the objective of the initiative itself is to share and implement best practices for minimizing emissions of SLCPs from agriculture, including both methane and black carbon. So one of the things that we made sure that the framework for the initiative addressed was we did not want to compromise food security and productivity. So those were 2 key elements that all partners who were putting this together felt very strongly about. And we made sure that in the components that we developed coming from the initiative, that we're looking at reducing emissions while also ensuring that productivity is not compromised. So as I mentioned before, the three main areas that we wanted to identify were livestock, paddy rice, and open burning. And the approach was to build on existing knowledge and technologies. So we're working very closely with the GRA, CGIAR, CCAFs, the Global Methane Initiative, FAO, the World Bank, and others. And the idea was that as the CCAC intends to be a catalyst of sorts, we are not trying to reinvent the wheel. So what we're looking to do is identify existing activities that could be scaled up, that could be leveraged through high-level political will, or that could be mobilized with resources, essentially. So those were the kind of the main elements that we were looking to incorporate in our work. And Canada, as one of the partners of the initiative as a whole, has been playing a strategic role in ensuring that all the work streams under the initiative are aligned with the objective of the CCAC, along with ensuring that they align with the initiative as a whole. So the first of the three, and I'll try to go as quickly as I can. Livestock and manure management. So the leads for this particular stream are the United States, the FAO, and Wageningen University that are based in the Netherlands. And the target regions are Asia, Africa, and Latin America, so definitely covering a good chunk of the world. And the objective with this particular component is to reduce SLCPs emissions from manure management in these three regions through one of the key deliverables is an informational kiosk or knowledge platform. So when the partners got together to discuss this component, one of the things that was identified as a gap in what could help scale up technologies that already exist to reduce emissions was finding a way to bring that information to practitioners, to farmers, to policymakers, to ensure that best practices were, the information related to best practices were being provided. And one thing that, in addition to that, the intent was also to look for sources of financing, including from the CCAC as a whole, to actually implement some of this work in particular case studies. So one of the expected results is increased awareness amongst key stakeholders, such as farmers and policymakers, improved stakeholder capacity to implement best practices, the introduction of policies enabling improved manure management practices, and in addition to creating an active network. So Phase 1 and 2 combined received just over $2 million of funding this past year, and work is going to be commencing very shortly. The second is open agricultural burning. So this is a bit of a different case in the sense that here, awareness in terms of what is being burnt and how it's being burnt and exactly what is going into the atmosphere is still very much in the process of being assessed and analyzed. So the International Climate Cryosphere Initiative, I only have 3 minutes. I will try my best. So the ICCI group is working very closely in assessing exactly these questions. And what they've done is they've identified two regions of the world, the Eastern and Central Himalayas and the Andes and Patagonia regions, to look at exactly how open burning is affecting these regions, specifically because of the emissions of black carbon and how that can darken the ice on glaciers in mountainous regions, therefore contributing to warming. So the expected results of Phase 1 for this work is to look at answering those questions through case studies and also developing shovel-ready pilot projects that can be funded in Phase 2. And the last one, and one that I think is, I'm happy to have Lenny here because she's been very instrumental in this, is the paddy rice production component. This is being led by the International Rice Research Institute and the International Center for Tropical Agriculture, and the target countries are Bangladesh, Colombia, and Vietnam for Phase 1. The primary objective of this component is to assist countries to consolidate information, to plan priority areas for mitigation in paddy rice, and implement a trial national agricultural development initiative to promote farmer-led innovation in the alternate wetting and drying method. And this is, of course, widely accepted as the most promising mitigation practice for paddy rice currently due to its high methane reductions and multiple benefits. So Phase 1 will look at engaging partners, developing the central information hub, which again is linked to what the livestock and manure management component is doing, in that you want to create platforms where stakeholders can access relevant information. But they're also looking to support countries to compile information, create maps of areas with high potential for mitigation, and the information from Phase 1 will then be also used to plan a trial national outreach initiative for alternate wetting and drying plus. So Phase 2 will look at developing a network of farmer demonstration sites where the benefits of AWD can be demonstrated, but it's also going to look at national outreach initiatives and monitoring results. So one of the things that Phase 2 is going to be seeking is, again, more funding and the participation of more partners. and they were just approved for 777,000 USD last 2 weeks ago in Paris. So that's very exciting. So what's next? And this is a part that for me is the take-home message for all of you here today, is we're looking, the CCAC as a whole is very new, and the agriculture initiative is even newer. So we're at a stage right now where we're welcoming input, we're welcoming partners, we're welcoming expertise, and we're welcoming resources. Each one of these three streams are very much in phase one of their work. So as we expand, as we hopefully look to scale up this work, we're asking to get engagement from partners. And actually the presentation from you was very interesting in Costa Rica, because much of that in terms of work is what we're looking to do as well in these countries. So that was very exciting to see, and I think similar examples of that around the world are what we're looking to engage in. The other big thing that I think speaks to the CCAC is that it's the agriculture initiative is that it's trying to remain very open in addressing new areas as well. So thankfully with the assistance of the GRA and the FAO, we're going to be looking at how we can also address enteric fermentation, and that's coming up this year. And one of the other strengths of the coalition, as I mentioned, was that the support of the high-level political will. So two times a year, we'll have ministers of environment and leaders from organizations come together under the coalition to reassert their support for addressing SLCPs, and that includes agriculture. So through this initiative, we're hoping to keep that momentum going and raise awareness of the importance of addressing SLCPs in the sector. And as I mentioned, just quickly, why is it important? Because agriculture is key. So in many studies and in discussions within the coalition as well, it is clear that if you're going to address SLCPs, you have to address it in the agricultural sector. Without doing that, you're missing out on a huge portion of where the emissions are coming from. So as I mentioned, we welcome questions, engagement at all levels, and if you are more interested in what we're doing under the agriculture initiative, there are several lead partners. We're all happy to take any questions you have, or if you want more information, we're happy to provide it, and thank you very much.